it's always fun playing against these guys. You know, the level of competitiveness and the level of, you know, trying to compete. You know, everything, the levels of everything in this game just goes up playing against the Packers. It's the Packers.
Welcome back to another edition of Enough Said. My name is Dan Barreiro. I usually am joined by Justin Gaard, but he's busy with one of his other 15 jobs. And Jon Krawcynski from The Athletic, kind enough to join us. Good to see you, man.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Lori Fisher, of course, dressed in the requisite purple.
It's Purple Friday.
She'll turn on them if they lose on Sunday.
She's ready already.
Now, John, if we were doing a story on Blaine,
I
go
can't
Bengals,
believe you didn't wear
we'd
blue.
both be wearing blue.
I got some blue.
What are the Blaine colors? What are the Blaine colors?
Navy blue and light blue.
Navy blue.
It's a classic look.
It is.
It's not a bad. That's kind of different.
Best dressed in the state. I'll say it right now.
I wouldn't go that far.
Welcome to the show, John. We appreciate you coming on with this crew.
Happy to be back.
Great. Well, as Dalvin Cook says, it's the Packers. Green Bay up next here at home on Sunday here on Fox 9. Luckily, the Vikings won last week against the LA Chargers, and this weekend
she says,
they get back center Garrett Bradbury and some other players who were on the COVID-19 reserve list. So anything could really happen this weekend, Dan.
Well, having Garrett Bradbury back, I don't even know if he's going to start, right? Because
we
the guy who replaced him seemed to do pretty well, and he had been struggling a little bit. You know me, I'm a numbers cruncher, John.
Absolutely, analytics.
I'm going to throw these numbers out at you. 17, 22, 14, 10, 21, 13, and 0.
The offensive outputs in the Packers games recently?
Exactly right. From the Packers defense, my point is this is a step in class on several levels from, I think, the Chargers. It was a nice victory last week, an important victory. But the Packers defense, after a bad opening game, I think they gave up 38, has been probably basically it's the kind of defense Zim wants.
Right.
And they've been doing it without Zadarius Smith. They've been doing it without their top corner. Jair Alexander's been out as well. And that, to me, is the story here. As good as the offense looked last week at key times, can they do it against a defense that has been really, really stout and seems to have figured some things out, even without two of probably their best players?
Well, and we've seen this time and time again in the Zimmer era, right? Because the Vikings will play well against lesser competition, and then when they step up in weight class against physical, nasty front sevens, that's when they get dominated. And it's really maddening to think about because Zimmer, you think, is this tough coach. I want to win in the trenches.
True.
And they always get dominated on both sides of the line of scrimmage that way. So it's going to be a huge test, and I do think that everyone is waiting to see if they trust this team. And I think a win on Sunday would be the reason for Vikings fans to open their hearts to get stomped on again, because everyone's waiting for Kirk Cousins to fall short and for this offensive line to get overwhelmed again.
One in a row is not going to do it, as good a victory as it was on the road. Here's the other thing that's got to change this week. They got away with 2nd and 19, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20 last week because they were able to complete some passes largely with Jefferson. That's a great feature, and good teams have to have it. But I think if they get in the same positions this week because, again, too many penalties, they got a real penalty problem, I think this defense will eat them up. And that's what they have to stay away from if they want to give themselves the best chance to see the best of Cousins, the best of this offensive line, the best of what Dalvin has to offer.
They have to stay away from those situations, but they also have to get the Kirk Cousins that wants to win games and not just manage them, right? He has to be willing to squeeze a ball into a tight window to Jefferson, to Adam Thielen, loosen that defense up and say, you're going to have to play these guys down the field and not just concentrate on Dalvin Cook and be Charlie check down and go ahead of the sticks.
Well, and that, that's where Zimmer kind of plays it both ways, because Zimmer made it sound after the game like, hey, I had to encourage him. We can't keep throwing in front of the sticks. I see Adam Thielen open. Why didn't you find him open? That kind of thing. And that sounds good because it is part of what this offense needs to do
30
and
seconds.
what Cousins needs to do. But then what happens is if there's 2 bad interceptions, Zim, I think, he goes to DEFCON 1. And so I think that's where he has to be consistent and has to be willing to accept the occasional interception. I'm not talking about, 3 stupid bad interceptions in a game or in a half, but there's a middle ground there, and it's always easy to talk tough about, hey, go ahead, take your chances when you don't have any mistakes, which is the case against the Chargers.
Topic 2 has to be the Timberwolves.
Has to be.
It has
I'm
to
shocked
be.
it's not the lead.
I know. Well, back-to-back wins at
Johnny.
home, so we're very excited about that. First, they turned things around and beat the Kings Tuesday night. Then on Thursday night, a win against the Spurs, 115-90. John, you cover the Wolves, a senior writer for The Athletic. What do you think they are doing right this week? And then I saw you tweet today that the game against the Grizzlies Saturday night is going to be a big challenge.
Yeah, similar to what the Vikings have in terms of stepping up in weight class. The Spurs are not very good. The Kings are awful. But give credit to the Timberwolves for actually doing what they're supposed to do against these teams. So often we have seen them come in, play uninspired, get off to a really slow start, and all of a sudden they're in a dogfight, and all of a sudden they can't make shots, and they lose those games. I think the reason for encouragement over these last two games is they have been pretty good defensively most of the season, and they just haven't been able to make a shot to save their lives. Finally, they're starting to get a little more movement, sharing that ball, hitting some threes, getting more than just Karl Anthony Towns to produce for them. And so if they can build on that going into the game against the Grizzlies, maybe they get on a little bit of a run here and rediscover some of that dynamic offensive element that they were supposed to have at the start of the season. We thought they were going to be outscoring everyone and giving up tons of points. It's been the exact opposite.
Well, let me ask you something. I listened to a national NBA broadcast this week, and they were talking about the Wolves. And one of the things they were asking was whether the so-called Big Three is actually compatible, to the extent that the theory was they all need to score to be effective. And the question, basically their theory was this should be, ultimately this should be Anthony Edwards' team with Towns, but the D'Angelo needs shots. And I chuckled because the great irony here is that, is it possible this is the kind of team that would be better served with more of a pass-first mentality, point guard? I don't want to go down the Rubio road too far, but it's not a bad idea. But that's my question here. Is this, he was brought in to be an important piece, but do these pieces fit together now that Edwards is showing he's got such great offensive potential? Because let's face it, Russell doesn't run an offense well, and he's not a particularly good shooter, but he still wants to score.
Yeah, I think that what we're realizing so far in this experiment is they have a big two, not a big three.
Yes.
Russell is not on that level as a...
Does he know that?
No, absolutely not. He wants to run the show. Yeah,
yes.
And so I think that for the long-term health of this team, eventually Anthony Edwards is going to have to take control. But he's 20 years old right now. Yeah. That's asking a lot of him. They're already putting a lot of responsibility on him because he's the only guy that goes to the basket on this entire team. And so he's got a lot of burden on his shoulders to create things for the rest of the offense. Russell wants to shoot.
30 seconds.
But he's kind of a stand-up, jump shooting guy. Doesn't get to the basket
very often. He won't go to the
often.
basket.
He doesn't.
And I think he could, but he doesn't. He just is not interested in doing it.
Well, he's not super athletic. He's not very quick, and he doesn't gain very much separation. So they have to find a way to kind of establish the hierarchy of Towns, Russell are 1A and 1B for now, and D'Angelo Russell or Towns and Edwards, 1A and 1B. D'Angelo Russell is a distant second.
I still worry again about leadership. Is there a leader? Because as odd as this sounds, I think, and as immature as he can be in some ways, I still sense the 20-year-old kid has a better chance to be a leader than anybody else, which is a compliment maybe to him, but also a bad statement about the other guys.
I think that's fair to say.
The Wild also won big time at home against the Dallas Stars Thursday night. They won 7-2, some really exciting goals. Kaprizov had another one of his goals and 3 assists. The line changes are kind of keeping everybody on their toes. The team is hitting the road now. Panthers on Saturday, Lightning on Sunday. The Wild isn't back at the X until after Thanksgiving. And what's great is that the Wild and the Wolves played last night, so all of our sports fans can watch us tonight.
It's even better.
And they both won.
And they both
won.
All we do is win.
This is going to be a painful part for you because you're constantly at war with the hockey community. You're constantly trying to jab at them, get them going.
No.
And I'm going to I'll give you another number that I hope will get your attention. 46, 21, and 5. That is the Wild's record all of last season, regular season, and so far this season in first place. That's a record probably so far beyond your comprehension as a guy who's covered the Wolves forever. Go ahead, take a shot at it. Bring it down. Make it seem like they're not that good. That's a pretty good standard. Of course, we all know it's about the playoffs, but They're off to a very promising start again this year, and they had a really good regular season last year.
Well, as you know, Dan, I've been saying for a while to Dean Evison, change up the lines, mix this thing up, and he finally listened.
Yes.
So it's nice to know that he follows me on Twitter, that he listens to the podcast.
Right.
And
do you know how many guys are on a line in hockey?
Is there 2 or 3
I think
or 4?
it's 3, yeah. I believe.
Yeah. What are the blue line and red line for? I can't get that.
There's a couple of those.
But to your point, though, it is encouraging to see a team finally start to rise out of the muck and either be not just mediocre or bad, but be a contender.
And entertaining.
They're playing an entertaining style. Kaprizov is really fun to watch. But now it is going to be about what do they do in the playoffs. If this is the state of hockey, you need more than just winning some games in the regular season. Go do it in the playoffs.
Kaprizov has struggled. He had a good game an encouraging game last night. I think there was a little bit too much panic, but there is a parallel with Ant in that he's got to understand that when you elevate yourself, people are going to come after you. They're going to challenge you every night, and the job is to still be able to rise up and handle that and be really, really good. Because once you get people's notice, right, they're going to come after you, and they're going to make you be even better, and that's what he needs to do.
Especially when you're doing the fancy stuff that can sit in the craw of a defensive guy. When Ant's dunking on people, when Kaprizov is slipping a pass through their legs, they don't like it.
This is not a 2-8 out of nowhere football team. They just have won some games that have been really close. They played probably one of the hardest schedules in the Big Ten this year. And it's their senior day. We know they're going to be ready to play. We need to be at our best. We need to play our best game, and we need to play way better than we did last week.
Welcome back to Enough Said. That's Gopher head football coach PJ Fleck talking about the team's upcoming game against Indiana. As he said, Indiana is 2-8. The Gophers are 6-4 after losing to Iowa last weekend. There was that exciting 68-yard touchdown, but it would be especially great to win this Saturday going into next weekend's game against the Badgers, Dan.
Well, you know what would have really been great? Beating Iowa.
Yes,
beating Iowa and setting yourself up to where you are in control of your own destiny and you're feeling good about finally taking care of Iowa. I can't tell you how embarrassing I thought PJ was last week. I actually thought both coaches at various times embarrassed themselves. But at the top of the list, again, and it's to the point you got into in the first segment of the show, first part of the show, go out and suggest, actually proclaim, you are here to win the damn ball game. That means on 4th and 2 in the first quarter at their 2-yard line, go for it. I don't care. PJ can play this silly game. It was a long 2. I don't care how long a 2 it was. Whatever that is, go for it. Do something. If anything, that will show Iowa to say, whoa, they actually seem like they're serious about winning this thing, not just we're going to try to stay close. End of the first half. You're on their 16-yard line. You never take a shot into the end zone. That's on PJ. And, of course, he's lame. All of his alibis about it are lame. And that, to me, for a guy who just got this big contract extension, which should liberate him, and to say it's not about any one game here, I'm going to do it different with this game to make a point, to give us the best chance to win, and he choked.
Well, and here's what I'll say about PJ Fleck, who I think is the right person for this job and has done a good job. What I worry about with the contract extension is he sees it as a validation of this approach that he has taken everywhere he's been. Right. For all of the color that he brings to it, for all of the slogans and the mantras and the recruiting and the different helmets and things, he is not a flashy X's and O's guy. He is meat and potatoes.
He's an old coach. If you want to use it about age, he's an old coach.
30 seconds, Dan.
3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's what he wants. Open it up. Win the game. I totally agree. You have this massive offensive line. Use it. You have a senior quarterback. Use him.
Final point, Dan.
Double time possession in this game. We doubled them in time of possession. We outgained them. We rushed the hell out of the ball. That's supposed to mean what? In his world, a victory. He's got to look at the scoreboard and say, well, against good teams, though, it's not that simple.
Do more.
And I was a good team, and you had a chance to go out and win the game, and you didn't.
So I think this might be the first time ever that we talk about Taylor Swift on Enough Said, and Justin's missing it. So, John, it was Dan's idea, by the way.
I'm honored.
Well, it kind of was my idea because I want to bring you into it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to get through this. Okay, so she re-released she re-recorded some songs from an album, Red, from, I don't know, 10 years ago, and it includes a beautiful 10-minute version of the song All Too Well.
10-minute
Well, everyone thinks that I've listened to it like 5 times. Everyone thinks it's about Jake Gyllenhaal, the actor, who was much older than her when those two were dating, and he's getting backlash backlash, even death threats. John Mayer too, who she dated, and even singer Dionne Warwick is getting in on it, tweeting that Gyllenhaal should return her scarf. And Dan, I know you have a lot to say about her scarf, but you don't think this is fair. I mean, I feel like people should just know it's a song. So I blame the fans. I don't blame Taylor whatsoever. You?
Well, I get really worried. For all I know, Jake Gyllenhaal, is it Gyllenhaal?
Gyllenhaal,
yeah,
yes.
Is just a jackass. Maybe
right.
He's the worst human being in relationships ever. But we don't know.
Right.
And so I play this out in my mind and I go, why are we this angry with him about a relationship, as I understand, from like decades ago, 11, 12 years ago, that apparently lasted like 90 days.
Yeah.
And I just don't like the feel of, okay, we're all going to gang up on him, whether he deserves it or not, because in relationships, usually it's a little bit more complicated than that. So I guess I'm gobsmacked that we get this, not just obsessed with the story, but that we decide we got to take sides and he's evil, and let's have more memes making fun of Jake, when it was a relationship between two people. Sometimes it turns out good, sometimes it doesn't.
If it was abusive in any way, okay,
exactly.
That's different. We don't have any indication that it was. And it just does seem, if I'm Jake Gyllenhaal, I'm 10 years clear of this thing.
Exactly, I'm moving on.
And now this is coming around just because she did decide to re-record things.
Yes.
And she went steps further, from what I understand, in terms of like making it even more an indictment of Jake Gyllenhaal, of John Mayer. And nothing has changed between when they broke up and these last couple of weeks, other than now it's just rebubbling to the surface. And we only have one version of this story.
Maybe he needs to write a song.
Maybe he
I was going to say,
Lori, let me ask you this, something about
okay.
this. Does this, I mean, if this were reversed.
Oh, don't put me in that spot.
If this were reversed and it was a male singer deciding to double down on his frustrations about the woman who dumped him,
yes.
Would we be in the same place? Or would we be saying, stop with the shaming, stop with this? There's
no,
always going to be more to the story.
There would definitely be backlash. And I'm sure Jake has his supporters too right now. But I was going to say, when you date a musician, don't you think that you will end up being material for said songs?
I think that's fair, absolutely.
It might be fair, but then why is that not a form of exploitation? I mean, are you not exploiting whatever the dysfunction is in the relationship?
You must have to have like a deal when you date someone famous.
You're exploiting it for money.
Well, we're gonna move on, because I also want your take on this, not just Taylor Swift.
I'm not trying to get in Jake's will. I'm just trying to figure out.
You're a big Jake fan, aren't you?
Actually, I'm not. That's the irony of it. I don't even think he's that good of an actor.
Wow.
Okay.
Is that
wow.
Well,
okay. We need to move on. Okay. I want to get your take on Christmas before Thanksgiving.
This is too. I don't want to touch this.
Oh well, then we'll talk to John about it. But we know that the music's already out there, right? The holiday music creeps in sooner and sooner every year. But now so many people have their lights up and putting up even their Christmas trees right now. What are your thoughts on that? John, you go.
Well, I as a father of 2 young kids, we might get our Christmas tree up the day before if we're lucky, just with how crazy things are. But what I will say is I'm much more of a proponent of keeping the decorations up after Christmas. I'll go to Valentine's Day if you let me.
Right.
The wife will disagree with me on that. But I think that when you do it beforehand, it feels like a money grab. It feels like all we're trying to do is get everyone out to the stores, buy, and do it. I'm trying to hold on to the warmth of Christmas after it. That's what I would vote for if we're talking about extending it one way or the other.
I'm old enough to remember that it was considered ridiculous to put up your decorations the day after Thanksgiving. And now most of us, I think, have gone to the period, now historically in our house, that's the Friday after Thanksgiving, we go and get the tree, and we put it up. And I'm cool with that, and I think it's great. So look, we know it is why it's being done. It is all of a money grab, and I think most, I would say, sane people are shaking their head in disgust at the direction it's gone, but it's like, well, what do you do about it? It's not like you can go into stores and say, tell them, no, you're putting up your decorations on the day after Halloween. That's a little too soon. Yeah. Not a bad idea, actually, but then there'll be people involved, troubled with the government being involved in this sort of thing. But yeah, it is. And to me, it's the old deal of, I'm a big Christmas proponent guy, special time of year, but you do lose, I don't think there's any question, you lose a little bit of that.
If it's 3 months out of the year.
The weariness of seeing decorations everywhere on November 1st.
Let's
Can
have
we
the
just take them
novelty.
down by February 14th, please?
Well,
I would agree with that. I would go
Okay,
not as
thanks.
long as you.
I'm
You want to go
going
all the way to
Valentine's Day. Yeah, let's do that.
I'm
Is
all
that
about the
out of
holiday
realm?
spirit right now, but I know, John, you said January's okay, but I'm like, can we move on? New year, new stuff.
I'm a romantic.
You
I like
always
to
have
keep it out there.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Unbelievable.
Look at that.
Unbelievable.
Some of us
You
get in
are-
the spirit.
You
Of
are
Purple
We are
Friday.
taking over this town.
such a self-promoter.
I thought you would enjoy it.
Oh, it was fun. No, it was good. It was very, I'm touched. I
Okay,
think
good.
we both are.
It was for
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know Guardsy would, wherever he is touched too.
you. Well, I'll text it to him.
yeah, for sure.
So let's get to the lightning round. This is nothing to be proud of, but earlier this week, Minnesota had the worst 7-day COVID-19 rate in the country. Hospital beds are hard to come by. Feds are sending help here to a few hospitals, and we know a lot of classrooms are going to distance learning, Dan.
Yeah, you know, what occurs to me is part of what's happening is the messaging has been so mixed on the booster. I don't think it's been well handled by anybody. In some cases, medical people, the government, etc., the importance of the booster. And I think you're seeing part of this issue is a lot of people who were vaccinated over a period of time. The product does not have the same, the vaccine doesn't have the same impact.
Next up.
And that's part of what we're dealing with now. It's cyclical, but
Just
and
get the
hopefully
shot.
it'll end quickly, but that's
Just get
where
the
we're
shot.
at.
I'll give this one to you, John. The famous cherry, as in the spoon and cherry in the sculpture garden in Minneapolis, has been removed. It's headed out east to get repainted. A lot of people having issues with why can't someone repaint it in Minnesota, but it's going to a place that specializes in sculptures, John.
You know, Dan, I'm one of us. I take great pride in this. You would not understand this.
Yeah, but that's Minneapolis.
That
you
should
don't know
be
anything
painted
about
here.
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Oh, that's home. St. Paul is the suburb that I have no
I
idea
see.
about.
That's the one you don't know about. Okay.
Yeah. So it should be painted here. It should be painted with
I like the
Minnesota
way,
paint.
Did it really
Let
need
go.
the paint job?
I don't know. Like,
How
let it
many
go.
people-
It's
Or
got
is
a
this
little
just
bit
a
of
way,
rustic
was this
thing.
all orchestrated just
To
to give
that
the cherry
degree.
some attention because feels neglected? in that
It might
regard?
be a little bit. We got US Bank
took it for
Stadium.
granted.
a few
Okay, we
other
gotta move
things.
on.
Maybe
Paint
that's
it up.
it, yeah.
So Britney Spears is finally free after 13 years. Her conservatorship is up. She turns 40 next month. I am waiting for her tell-all book. We know there's the documentaries, but she didn't have anything to do with those. Dan, Britney.
Well, you're the Britney expert on this show.
Still
by
worried
far.
about her.
I am too. I don't. Look, I don't.
I hope
know
she's okay.
She said
how
she
the
finally has an
conservative- whether
ATM card.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was fair to her, but I also think there's reason to believe from professionals, that
She needed the help.
she needed some help along the way too. So I don't know where this ends.
Yep.
I'm not exactly.
I just hope she's okay. That's
Yeah,
all
in
I'll
that
say.
video, she said she can finally buy candles. I mean, I feel really bad for her.
That's a
But
start,
we
I guess.
wanted to wish everybody a happy, enough said Thanksgiving next week. I know there's COVID concerns, so gatherings may still not be exactly the way they were a few years ago, but what are you guys up to?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. We'll stay local for a little bit. We'll go out to the in-laws over the weekend, and we're just gonna have a little fun and revelry and try and just enjoy a little bit of this. Everyone's vaccinated in our family, so we should be good to go.
Yeah, we stay local, and because the family from Chicago can't come for various reasons. I got a coach who's got a holiday tournament. You know, I could tell her to forfeit those games. That wouldn't go over very big.
Dan, who's in charge
so-
of the turkey?
We order the turkey out.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, we
Nice.
don't. We're past
Fancy.
the muss and the fuss of.
Speaking of high
Yeah,
maintenance.
that's it. Yeah.
Well, happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
Enough
So we're not
said.
doing a show
Right
next
back
Friday?
to you. No, so we'll see you in 2 weeks
What's
from now.
that all about? I was
I'll-
ready to do a show Friday.